Alright, so this is gonna sound completely insane, but I guess that's why I'm here. I, 25F, recently found out that my dad has another daughter. She's older than me. And my mom, apparently knew the whole time. It started with a random Facebook message from a woman named Lena. She said, "I think you deserve to know the truth about your family." Now, if you've ever gotten a message like that, you know your stomach just drops instantly. I clicked her profile. She looked normal, like someone's aunt who makes good casserole. She sent a photo. It was my dad, at a bar, kissing her. The date on the photo? 1999. I was born in 2000. At first, I thought it was Photoshop. I literally laughed. I even showed my boyfriend and said, "People are wild." But then she sent another photo, this time of a girl standing next to her. Same freckles as me. Same weird dimple on the left side when she smiles. She looked like me. Her name was Sarah. She's 26. I texted my mom right away. "Who's Lena?" She didn't answer for 10 minutes. Then she just replied, "We should talk." That's when I knew it wasn't fake. I drove to her house, walked in, and she was sitting at the kitchen table, crying quietly. She didn't even look surprised. She said, "I always knew this day would come." Then she told me everything, that my dad cheated when she was pregnant with me, that Lena was the other woman, and that she forgave him, because everyone makes mistakes. Except that mistake apparently has a face. And that face looks like mine. I asked if she knew about Sarah. She said she didn't. She swore she didn't. But I don't know what to believe anymore. That night, I went to see my dad. He was in the garage working on his stupid motorcycle like nothing was wrong. I held up my phone and said, "Who's Lena?" He looked at me and said, "She's none of your business." None of my business? Dude, you cheated on my mom while she was pregnant with me, and now I apparently have a sister I never met, and it's not my business? I lost it. I yelled, he yelled back, and then he said the most disgusting thing I've ever heard come out of his mouth. "If it wasn't for that mistake, you wouldn't be here either." He literally called me a mistake to my face. I left before I did something stupid. A few days later, I found Sarah on Instagram. I sent her a message. She replied instantly. She said she's known about me her whole life. Her mom told her, "Daddy has another family." Apparently, he used to visit her when she was little. He told her I didn't exist anymore. I don't even know what that means. We talked for hours. She seems nice. Too nice. Like, she's not angry at me. She said, "You didn't do anything wrong." But I can't help but feel like I'm walking through someone else's life. My mom left my dad last week. Just packed a bag and went to her sister's place. He's been calling non-stop, saying, "It was years ago," and, "Why are you ruining this family?" Like bro, you ruined it 25 years ago. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Now here's the part where I might actually be the asshole. I told my mom that I want to meet Sarah in person. She freaked out. Said it would reopen wounds. Said I was choosing them over her. But I need to know who my sister is. I can't just pretend she doesn't exist. My mom cried and said, "If you go, don't come back here." So I went. Sarah lives in Indiana. We met at this small diner halfway between our cities. When she walked in, I swear it felt like looking in a mirror, except she had my dad's smile, the one I hate now. We hugged. We cried. We talked for 6 hours straight. She told me her mom never got over my dad. That he promised he'd leave my mom but never did. That every birthday she'd get a gift from dad that smelled like the same cologne I used to give him every Christmas. It was the same man, living two lives, like some kind of low-budget movie villain. At one point, Sarah asked, "Do you think he loved either of them?" And I said, "I don't think he knows what love means." When I got home, my mom wasn't answering her phone. My dad had left me a voicemail that just said, "You're ungrateful. You'll regret this." Yeah, maybe I will. But at least I won't regret being honest. I'm still talking to Sarah. We text every day. She wants to come meet my mom eventually, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. There's too much pain, too much history. Sometimes I sit at night and scroll through Sarah's childhood photos and wonder what it would have been like to grow up together, to share birthdays, secrets, stupid inside jokes. And then I realize, my dad stole that from both of us. So, Reddit, tell me straight. Am I the asshole for wanting to meet my half-sister, even though it broke my family apart? TLDR, found out my dad cheated on my mom while she was pregnant with me. Turns out, I have a 26-year-old half-sister. Mom knew about the affair but not the child. Dad called me a mistake. I met my sister anyway. Now my mom won't talk to me. Am I the asshole? I don't even know where to post this. Maybe r/true off my chest, maybe r/off my shoulders. It doesn't matter. I just need to say it somewhere that isn't my mirror. So, I, 26F, found out my half-sister finally knows about me. Her name's Emma, 25F. She messaged me a few weeks ago. And for the first time in my entire life, I wished my father was still alive, so I could scream at him. Yeah. He died 2 years ago. Heart attack. No goodbye, no last words. Just gone, like a coward escaping his own mess. My mom told me everything when I was 10. That my dad was married to another woman. That he had another baby right after I was born. That he'd promised to leave his wife and didn't. At 10 years old, you don't understand betrayal, you just feel defective. I used to wait by the window every weekend because he'd sometimes come visit. He always brought me a gift, a doll, a book, a stuffed animal, wrapped perfectly, like guilt covered in paper. He'd say, "Someday I'll bring your sister too." And I'd believe him. Every damn time. Then one day, he stopped showing up. Mom said he went back to his family. So, I grew up angry. Not at him, but at the ghost of the life I never had. When Emma messaged me, my first instinct was to block her. But then I opened her profile and froze. She looked like me. Same jawline, same crooked smile. For a second, I felt like someone had recreated me better. She said, "Hey. I think we're sisters." And I started crying before I even typed anything back. We talked for hours. She told me our dad called me a mistake. That he told her I didn't exist anymore. And I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was exactly what I expected him to say. She said she wanted to meet in person. I said yes immediately. I didn't even ask my mom. We met at this tiny diner off the interstate. When I saw her walk in, it felt like watching a version of myself who didn't carry all the guilt. She looked lighter. Freer. Maybe because she got the version of Dad who wasn't broken yet. We hugged, and she whispered, "I'm sorry." I asked, "For what?" She said, "For existing." And I think that broke me more than anything my father ever did. We sat for 6 hours, just talking. She told me about her mom, kind, patient, forgiving. The kind of woman who probably baked cookies when she was sad. My mom was nothing like that. She was steel, strong, sharp, unbending. I love her, but she raised me with anger instead of love. At one point, Emma asked me, "Did he ever love your mom?" And I told her the truth, he loved himself. The rest of us were just collateral damage. She looked hurt. Not because she didn't believe me, but because she finally did. When I got home, my mom was waiting for me. She'd seen the photos Emma posted on Instagram, us smiling, drinking milkshakes like some long-lost reunion movie. Mom didn't yell. She just said, "You brought him back." I didn't understand. She pointed at the picture and said, "I spent 20 years trying to forget that man. And now his face is sitting at our table again." I told her it wasn't about him, it was about me. But she shook her head and said, "He never really left, did he? He's living in both of you." Then she walked out of the room. She hasn't spoken to me since. That night I went through my dad's old things, the few I kept. Letters he wrote to my mom when he was trying to make things right. They were full of apologies that meant nothing. But one of them had a photo taped inside. It was him holding a baby. "Not me. Emma." He wrote on the back, "She looks just like you." I threw it in the trash. Then I picked it back up. Because I realized something. Even though he ruined both our lives, he tied us together forever. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only good thing he ever did. Emma texted me last night. "Mom found out I met you." She's not talking to me either. We're both sitting in the fallout of a man who's already dead. And I can't stop thinking that he probably wanted it this way, 2 daughters orbiting his memory, never touching. But I won't let him win. Emma and I decided to meet again next month. We're thinking about visiting his grave. Not to forgive him. Just to remind him that the mess he left behind learned how to live without him. Still, sometimes at night I catch myself scrolling through her messages, reading the words she types exactly the way I would, and I wonder, if we'd grown up together, would we even like each other? Or would we still be fighting over a man who didn't deserve either of us? Anyway, that's it. That's my confession. My dad had 2 lives, 2 families, and 2 daughters who ended up with one shared ghost. He's gone. But his silence still divides us louder than any lie he ever told. TLDR, my dad cheated, had 2 families. I was the secret one. He died, and now my half-sister reached out. We met. It was emotional, real, and it ruined what was left of both our families. We're trying to move on, but sometimes it feels like his shadow still decides who we are.
I've been reading this subreddit for years, judging strangers for their bad decisions. Now I'm the one writing one. I guess that's karma. I, 52F, have been married to my husband for 30 years. Or maybe I should say was married, because last month, my daughter found out what I spent decades trying to bury. She knows he cheated. She knows about the other woman. And she knows about the child he had with her. What she doesn't know, what no one knows, is that I knew too. For 25 years. Before you call me pathetic or stupid, let me explain. Back then, I had a newborn and a mortgage. I was exhausted, scared, and clinging to the only version of love I thought I'd ever get. When I found out, it was through a phone call. The woman, Lena, called my house. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't know he was married until it was too late. She was pregnant. I remember staring at the kitchen wall, watching the paint crack, thinking, if I pretend not to know, maybe it won't be real. And that's exactly what I did. He came home that night smelling like rain and whiskey. I asked him if he loved her. He said no. I asked him if it was over. He said yes. And I believed him, not because he was convincing, but because I needed to believe him. When you're a mother, your whole life becomes about holding things together. Even when those things are already broken. Especially when they're broken. So, I stayed. We raised our daughter. He worked. We smiled at barbecues. We sent Christmas cards with fake joy. I lived in a house of ghosts and called it peace. But the guilt never left. Every time he kissed our daughter goodnight, I saw her, the other baby. Every time we fought, I imagined her growing up somewhere else, calling someone else daddy. I used to tell myself that I was the better woman for forgiving him. Now I know that forgiveness isn't virtue, sometimes it's cowardice wearing perfume. When our daughter turned 18, I almost told her. But I looked at her face, so full of light, and I couldn't do it. Why destroy her world just because mine was rotten? I told myself she deserved a normal life. I told myself I'd already suffered enough for both of us. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared she'd hate me for staying. Scared she'd see me the way I saw myself, weak. And then it happened. A few weeks ago, she came to my house holding her phone like a weapon. There was a picture. Him. Lena. The other girl, Sarah. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. I felt everything collapse in silence. I wanted to scream, but I didn't deserve to. All I said was, I always knew this day would come. And when I saw her eyes, I realized she wasn't angry at him. She was angry at me. She asked why I stayed. Why I didn't leave. Why I didn't tell her. How do you explain to your child that love sometimes looks like survival? That marriage can feel like drowning slowly while smiling for the neighbors. I told her the truth. Because I didn't want her to grow up without a father. Because I didn't want to be alone. Because I was weak. She left without saying goodbye. And now she's met Sarah. I saw the photos online, them laughing, holding hands, like sisters who found each other at last. Everyone in the comments was saying, "This is beautiful, love wins." But I don't see beauty. I see the proof that I wasted my life protecting a lie. They get to heal together. I get to rot alone. Yesterday, my husband tried calling me again. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail, "We can fix this." Fix what? The past? The years I spent pretending we were happy. You can't fix a house built on ashes. Sometimes I think about Lena. She died 5 years ago, breast cancer. I went to the funeral. No one knew who I was. I just stood there, watching Sarah cry, wondering if my husband ever loved her more than he loved me. And in that moment, I didn't hate her. I hated myself. Because she was brave enough to love him honestly, while I loved him like a secret. I've been sleeping on the couch lately. Our bedroom smells like betrayal. I can't wash it out. Some nights I still hear his footsteps in the hallway and my heart jumps, muscle memory from years of pretending everything was fine. My daughter texted me last night. "I'm not ready to talk yet." That's fair. She deserves space. But I don't know how to live without her. She was my reason for everything, even the wrong things. So now, I sit here, typing this, realizing that the worst part of secrets isn't keeping them. It's realizing that they keep you. For decades. Until the truth finally breaks the silence, and all that's left of you is a woman who mistook endurance for strength. Maybe someday she'll understand why I stayed. Maybe she won't. Maybe she'll just remember me as the woman who lied to protect her. And maybe that's all I deserve. TLDR, I knew my husband cheated and had another child. I stayed for 25 years to protect my daughter from the truth. She found out anyway, met her half-sister, and now she hates me. I lost everything trying to keep it together.
I know everyone's going to hate me for this. That's fine. I've hated myself longer than any of you ever could. I, 54M, cheated on my wife 25 years ago. I had a daughter with the other woman. And yes, my wife knew. She forgave me. At least that's what I thought. But here's the thing about forgiveness, it doesn't erase anything. It just buries it deep enough for you to pretend it's gone. Until one day, it digs itself out and drags you back into the grave with it. I met Lena at a gas station, of all places. She was working the night shift, listening to some old country song, humming off-key. She laughed at one of my stupid jokes, and I remember thinking, when was the last time my wife laughed at anything I said? That's how it starts, not with lust, but with loneliness. I didn't plan for it to last. But it did. She made me feel young again. Stupid, I know. We talked about running away, starting over. I told her things I never told my wife, not because they mattered, but because she listened. And then she told me she was pregnant. I panicked. I wanted to do the right thing, but what even is that when every option hurts someone? I told her I'd figure it out. But my wife found out before I could. I came home one night, and she was sitting in the dark holding the phone. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just said, "Is it true?" I said yes. And she said, "Then make it worth it." I didn't understand what she meant until years later. She stayed. She told me she forgave me. We kept the house. The family. The image. But it wasn't forgiveness, it was penance. She made me live in the shell of the man I used to be, smiling for photos, pretending everything was fine. Every morning, she'd make me coffee and ask about my day like nothing happened. Every night, she'd roll over in bed and pretend to sleep before I even turned off the light. It was like living next to a ghost who refused to leave. And I deserved it. But I couldn't stay away from Lena. I know, once a cheater, always a cheater. But it wasn't about sex. It was about silence. With her, I didn't have to pretend to be forgiven. When our second daughter was born, I held her in my arms, and for a second, I thought I could fix everything. Her name was Sarah. She looked like me, and like the life I'd never have. I promised Lena I'd leave my wife. I lied. I tried to juggle both worlds. Birthdays, holidays, excuses. Lena would ask, "When are you telling her?" And I'd say, "Soon." But soon turned into years. I visited Sarah whenever I could. I brought gifts. Money. But I never brought myself, not fully. I'd tell her stories about her sister, about Emma, as if they were fairy tales instead of flesh and blood. She'd ask, "Can I meet her someday?" And I'd say, "Maybe when you're older." That was my favorite lie. When she was 12, Lena got sick. Breast cancer. I told myself I'd step up, be there, do better. But I didn't. I stayed home with my real family, pretending everything was fine while she fought for her life alone. She died 5 years ago. Sarah called me once after the funeral. I didn't pick up. Because how do you answer a phone call from the person you ruined? When Emma found out about Sarah a few weeks ago, it all exploded. My wife left. My daughter hates me. And the only person who could possibly understand is the one I spent her entire life avoiding. I keep hearing Emma's voice in my head, the last thing she said to me before walking out. "You didn't ruin the wedding. You ruined us." She's right. I ruined all of them. But I also ruined myself, long before that. I used to think I was protecting everyone by keeping things separate. Now I see I was just protecting my comfort. 2 families. 2 lies. 1 coward. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if I'd left when I said I would. Maybe Lena wouldn't have died alone. Maybe Sarah wouldn't have grown up with questions instead of answers. Maybe Emma wouldn't look at me like I'm a stranger she wishes she'd never met. Maybe my wife wouldn't have wasted her life loving a man who only existed on paper. I tell myself I did it all for them. But the truth is, I did it for me. I wanted to be loved twice, forgiven twice, remembered twice. And now, I'll be forgotten twice as fast. The other night, I went through an old box in the attic. Inside was a photo, me holding both girls when they were babies, one in each arm. I don't even remember when it was taken. Probably one of those rare times I managed to make the worlds overlap without them knowing. They both looked happy. Pure. Untouched by the man who'd already doomed them. I sat there staring at it until I started shaking. And I realized something that made me sick. That was the happiest moment of my life, and none of them remember it. I don't know what I want from this post. Forgiveness, maybe. But I know I don't deserve it. I just don't want to disappear without anyone knowing that I loved them, all of them, even if I didn't know how to show it. If anyone reads this and thinks I'm some heartless monster, you're right. But I wasn't born that way. I became one slowly, one lie at a time, until the truth felt like a stranger breaking into my home. So yeah. I'm the asshole. The worst kind, the kind who meant well. TLDR, I cheated on my wife 25 years ago. Had another daughter. Lied to everyone, tried to live two lives. Lost both families. Now I'm alone, and they're all healing without me. And honestly, maybe that's how it should be.